Listen closely, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see relationships and yourself forever. Most men spend their entire lives chasing, begging, and bending over backward for a woman's attention, only to end up empty-handed, frustrated, and invisible. But what if I told you there's a way to flip the script, to become the man women pursue instead of the one pleading for scraps? This isn't manipulation. This isn't a trick. This is the raw, unfiltered truth about what really makes a man irresistible. And once you hear it, you'll never go back to the way you were before. I'm not here to waste your time with empty platitudes or tired cliches. I'm here to expose the brutal reality most men refuse to face. Women don't chase men who need them. They chase men who inspire them, who radiate a quiet, unshakable confidence that says, I am the prize, and the moment you embody this, everything changes. The power shifts, the dynamic flips, and suddenly, you're not the one fighting for her attention, she's fighting for yours. But here's the catch. This isn't about pretending. This isn't about faking it until you make it. This is about transformation. A complete rewiring of how you think, act, and carry yourself in the world. And if you're ready to leave behind the weak, needy version of yourself and step into the kind of man women can't ignore, then don't you dare look away. Because what comes next will be the most important lesson of your life. This is your wake-up call. The question is, are you ready to answer it? Let's begin with a fundamental truth, one that most men never grasp, and that failure, them everything. You've been conditioned to believe that pursuit is the path to success, that if you want something, especially a woman, you must chase it down, outwork the competition, prove your worth through relentless effort. But here's the brutal reality. Chasing is the fastest way to lose. It doesn't just fail, it backfires. And the reason is rooted in something far deeper than dating tactics or social dynamics. It's embedded in human nature itself. Think about it. When you chase, what are you really communicating? You're signaling lack. You're broadcasting scarcity. You're telling her through your actions that you need her more than she needs you. And nothing kills attraction faster than that. Women, like all people, are drawn to those who stand firmly in their own value, who don't plead, don't scramble, permission to exist. They're repelled by desperation because desperation is weakness. And weakness is dangerous. Evolutionarily, it's a terrible signal. A man who chases is a man who hasn't secured his own survival, his own purpose, his own throne. And no high-quality woman wants to tie herself to that. Now contrast that with the man who doesn't chase. The man who is so absorbed in his mission, so committed to his own excellence, that he doesn't have time to beg for attention. That man is rare. That man stands out. Not because he's playing games, but because he's playing an entirely different sport. He's not focused on her. He's focused on becoming the kind of man she can't ignore. And that shift from chasing to attracting changes everything. Attraction isn't something you negotiate. It's something you command. It's then a woman's validation, his purpose. When you're consumed by a mission, when your days are filled with meaningful work, when your identity isn't tied to whether or not she texts you back, something remarkable happens. You stop monitoring her every move. You stop dissecting her tone. You stop rearranging your life to accommodate her whims. And that shift from orbiting her world to being the center of your own is what makes you magnet. Here's why this works. People value what they have to earn. If your attention is given freely, without standards, it becomes cheap. But if your attention must be earned through respect, through reciprocity, through genuine connection, it becomes valuable. This isn't manipulation, it's basic economics. Scarcity in who hasn't proven their investment in you. You create that scarcity naturally. You communicate without saying a word that your time, your energy, your presence are not guaranteed. They must be deserved. Now let's talk about respect. Because detachment means nothing if you don't enforce boundaries. Most men tolerate disrespect because they fear the alternative, losing her. But here's the truth they never consider. A woman who disrespects you doesn't want you. She wants the version of you that tolerates it. The moment you allow it, you become complicit in your own diminishment. And no one, least of all a high-quality woman, is attracted to a man who has no backbone. Demanding respect isn't about aggression or ultimatums. It's about quiet, unwavering standards. It's the ability to say, expect to be treated, take it or leave it. When she tests you, and she will, because all people test boundaries, you don't negotiate. You don't plead. You simply withdraw. Not as punishment, but as a natural consequence. Because a man who respects himself doesn't entertain disrespect from others. And that refusal, that willingness to walk away, is what separates the men who are chaste from the men who beg. This is where most men fail. They confuse attachment with love, neediness with passion. They think that if they care deeply, they must show it through constant attention, through emotional dependency. But that's not love. That's insecurity masquerading as devotion. Real strength lies in the ability to care deeply while remaining autonomous. To love without losing yourself. But that's not how this works. The prize isn't self-declared, it's self-evident. It's in the way you carry yourself when no one's watching, the way you treat people who can't do anything for you, the way you handle adversity. Women and the world are watching, always. So how do you start today, right now? By asking yourself one question: would I chase me? If the answer isn't an immediate yes, you know what to do. Build, refine, demand more from yourself than anyone else ever could, because the prize isn't born, it's forged. And the moment you decide you're worth the effort is the moment everything changes. The choice is yours. Remain another face in the crowd or become the man who stands apart. But remember, no one will treat you like the prize until you do. There's a fundamental law of human interaction that most men never deeply. Who creates, who leads, who stands for something? That's a man who becomes unforgettable. Ask yourself, what do I bring to the table that no one else can? If the answer isn't clear, you've got work to do. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Ego. Becoming the prize isn't about narcissism. It's not about strutting through life expecting applause. In fact, the men who truly operate at this level are often the most grounded because they don't need external validation to confirm their worth. They know. And that knowing is what makes them magnetic. It's the difference between a king and a tyrant. One rules with quiet authority, the other with brittle insecurity. Here's where most men fail. They confuse being the prize with acting entitled. They demand respect they haven't earned, admiration they haven't cultivated, grasp, and their ignorance of it costs them dearly. The more you need something, the less likely you are to get it. This isn't some mystical philosophy, it's observable reality. When you cling to a woman's approval, when you structure your emotional well-being around her attention, you don't just appear weak, you become weak. And weakness, in any form, is repulsive. Not because women are cruel, but because nature is. Survival favors those who can stand on their own. So if you want to be chaste, if you want to be desired rather than tolerated, you must master the art of detachment. Detachment isn't indifference. It's not about pretending you don't care when you do. That's just another form of neediness, a performance rather than a position of strength. True detachment is the natural state of a man who has something more important, natural byproduct of a life well lived, of a man who has sorted himself out, who has faced his demons and conquered them, who has built something meaningful. When you operate at that level, you don't need to convince anyone of your worth. It's self-evident. Your presence carries weight. Your silence carries authority. Your attention becomes a gift, not a given. And that's when women start to lean in. That's when they begin to chase. But here's the critical distinction. This isn't about manipulation. It's about integrity. You're not pretending to be indifferent. You're actually indifferent because your self-worth isn't tied to her approval. You're not withholding attention to play mind games. You're directing your attention where it matters most, toward your purpose. And when a woman sees that, when she realizes you're not, if you walked into a high-end auction with a painting you believed was worthless, how would the bidders react? They'd ignore it. But if you carried that same painting with the quiet confidence of a man who knows it's a lost masterpiece, their curiosity would ignite. Your belief in its value would become theirs. The same principle applies to you. You teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. If you act like an afterthought, you'll be treated like one. If you carry yourself like the prize, the world and women will respond accordingly. So what does it mean practically to become the prize? It starts with understanding that value isn't given, it's built. You don't negotiate your worth, you demonstrate it. Every day in your discipline, your integrity, your refusal to tolerate mediocrity in yourself or your suru, orbiting her world but instead building your own, something primal kicks in. She wonders. She second guesses. She starts to question whether she's good enough for you. And that's the moment the tables turn. This isn't just theory, it's observable psychology. Scarcity increases perceived value. The less available you are, the more intriguing you become, but only if that scarcity is authentic. If you're pretending to be busy while obsessing over her every move, she'll see right through it. The goal isn't to fake detachment. It's to cultivate a life so rich that detachment is your default state. You're not ignoring her, you're simply focused on something more important, and that focus is magnetic. So, how do you make this shift? First, you have to kill the beggar mentality. No more over texting, no more over apologizing, no. Are you chasing, or are you attracting? Are you living like a man who demands respect, or like a man who hopes for it? The answer will determine not just your success with women, but the trajectory of your entire life. Choose wisely. Let's address something uncomfortable but necessary. Most men live their entire lives as spectators in their own story, waiting for permission to matter, hoping someone will anoint them as valuable. But here's the truth no one tells you. No one is coming to validate you. The world doesn't hand out prizes to those who merely show up. Women don't chase men who see themselves as options. They chase men who operate like the prize, because those are the only men who actually are. This isn't about arrogance. It's about a fundamental recalibration of how you perceive your own worth. More rearranging your schedule just to accommodate her whims. You're a man with priorities, not a puppy waiting for scraps. Second, you have to fill your life with purpose. If your existence revolves around women, you'll always be the one chasing. But if your existence revolves around something greater, your craft, your legacy, your growth, then women become a complement to your life, not the center of it. And that's when they start showing up differently. Finally, you have to internalize this truth. You are the prize, not her. You. Until you believe that at a bone-deep level, no tactic will save you. Confidence isn't something you fake. It's something you earn through discipline, through achievement, through self-respect. And once you've earned it, the chasing stops because you won't need to. So ask yourself right now, dings. A prize isn't just something rare, it's something earned. And that's the key distinction most men miss. They want the results, the attention, the respect, the attraction, without the labor of becoming someone who deserves it. But life doesn't work that way. Let's break it down further. Becoming the prize requires 3 non-negotiable pillars. First, mastery of self. You cannot be the prize if you're ruled by laziness, insecurity, or impulse. Mastery means showing up even when you don't feel like it. training your body, sharpening your mind, refining your craft. It means looking in the mirror and demanding more from the man staring back at you. Because here's the brutal part. Women can smell self-disgust beneath bravado. They can sense when you're performing confidence instead of embodying it. Competence, from knowing deep down that you've put in the work. Second, unshakable standards. Prizes don't beg for attention, they command it. That means walking away from anything and anyone that doesn't meet your criteria. Most men tolerate disrespect because they fear scarcity. They think, if I don't accept crumbs, I'll starve. But that's the paradox. The moment you stop accepting crumbs is the moment you're offered the whole meal when you refuse to settle. You communicate without a word that you're accustomed to better. And people, especially women, rise to meet that expectation. Third, irreplaceability. The prize isn't just valuable, it's unique. It can't be replicated by the next guy who walks in the room. Between warmth and independence is what creates lasting attraction. So, how do you cultivate this? Start by auditing your own behavior. Do you text her first every time? Do you cancel plans to accommodate her? Do you prioritize her moods over your own stability? If the answer is yes, you're not in a relationship. You're in servitude. Detachment begins with reclaiming your sovereignty. It means letting her come to you sometimes. It means maintaining your routines even when she's available. It means remembering that your worth isn't determined by her presence or her absence. And when respect is violated, when she's late without apology, when she dismisses your feelings, when she plays games, you don't explode. You don't grovel. You act. You distance yourself, not to manipulate her, but to honor yourself. Tolerate disrespect, you train her to see you as someone who deserves it. This is the paradox at the heart of attraction. The less you need her, the more she'll want you. Not because you've tricked her, but because you've shown her something rare. A man who cannot be bought, who cannot be bullied, who cannot be diminished by anyone's indifference. That kind of man isn't just attractive. He's unforgettable. So ask yourself today, are you holding on because you choose to or because you're afraid to let go? Are your actions rooted in strength or in fear? The answer will determine not just your relationships, but the trajectory of your life. Because in the end, the world doesn't reward those who cling. It rewards those who dare to stand alone. The choice is yours. Keep chasing or become the man who's chased. But remember, no one will value you more than you value yourself. Let me tell you something you already know but refuse to admit. Your life is slipping through your fingers while you make excuses. Every second you waste scrolling, hesitating, doubting yourself is another second your competition is out there grinding, leveling up, leaving you in the dust. You feel that knot in your stomach? That's your potential screaming at you to wake the hell up. This isn't just another video. This is your turning point. Right here, right now. I'm about to hit you with truth so raw, so brutally honest that by the time I'm done, you'll either be ready to conquer your demons or you'll stay exactly where you are, stuck, frustrated, watching life pass you by. But if you've got even an ounce of fight left in you, if you're tired of being average, tired of settling, tired of wondering what if, then you don't just watch this video. You'll absorb it. You'll let it burn through every excuse, every fear, every lie you've ever told yourself. Because what's coming next isn't motivation. It's a reckoning. And if you're brave enough to face it, your life won't be the same. So lean in, listen close. This is where the weak click away and where the strong finally rise. Let's start with a fundamental truth, one that most men never grasp until it's too late. Neediness is repulsive. It's not just unattractive, it's psychologically corrosive, both for you and for the woman you're pursuing. And here's why. Human beings at their core are wired to respect strength, not desperation. When you chase, when you beg, when you mold yourself into whatever you think she wants, you are broadcasting weakness. And weakness doesn't inspire love. It inspires pity, contempt, or worse, indifference. Think about it this way. What do people naturally gravitate toward? Confidence, purpose, self-assuredness. A man who is solid in who he is, who doesn't crumble at the first sign of disinterest, who doesn't rearrange his entire life just to keep a woman's attention, that man is magnetic. He doesn't have to convince anyone of his worth because his worth is self-evident. And that's the key difference between a man who is pursued and a man who is ignored. Now, let's break down the psychology behind this. Neediness stems from one critical error: externalizing your value. You start believing that your worth is determined by how much attention she gives you, how quickly she replies, whether she chooses you over someone else. That's a fatal mistake, because the moment you place your sense of self in someone else's hands, you've already lost. You've made yourself dependent on their validation. And that dependency is what kills attraction. Women and people in general don't fall in love with those who depend on them for emotional survival. They fall in love with those who stand firmly on their own. So how do you fix this? You reverse the equation. Instead of asking, does she like me? You ask, do I like her? Instead of worrying about whether she'll leave, you ask, does she meet my standards? This shift is everything. Because when you operate from a place of internal confidence, when you know deep down that you are the one who chooses, not the one waiting to be chosen, everything changes. Your energy shifts, your posture shifts, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, even the way you look her shifts. And that's when the real magic happens. But here's the hard part. This isn't about faking it. You can't just pretend to be confident and expect lasting results. Real magnetism comes from genuine self-mastery. It comes from having a life so compelling that a woman isn't the center of it. She's an addition to it. That means building a career that excites you, cultivating a mindset that doesn't break under pressure, surrounding yourself with people who push you to be better. When you do that, you stop being the guy who texts her 3 times in a row because she didn't reply fast enough. You become the guy who's too busy moving forward to obsess over her response time. And here's the paradox. The less you need her, the more she'll want you. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's rooted in deep human psychology. People are drawn to those who don't cling. They respect those who respect themselves first. So if you want to be a man that women don't leave, you have to become a man who isn't afraid of being left. Because when she senses that you're completely at peace with the idea of walking away, that's when she'll fight to stay. So ask yourself right now, are you chasing or are you attracting? Are you building your life in a way that makes you irresistible, or are you shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's world? The choice is yours, but remember this. The greatest power you have is the power to walk away. And the man who understands that will never be the one begging for love. Close with this. Stop waiting for permission to be great. Stop waiting for someone else to validate your worth. The moment you take full responsibility for your own life is the moment you become unstoppable, and the moment the right people start staying. Let's address something most men never consider. You are not auditioning for women, they are auditioning for you. This isn't arrogance, it's a fundamental recalibration of how you perceive your own value. The moment you internalize that you are the prize, not the participant, not the option, but the reward, everything changes. Women can sense this shift at a subconscious level. They're biologically and psychologically wired to seek out men who stand apart, men who don't just occupy space, but command it. So the question isn't whether you're good enough for her. The real question is if she's good enough for you. Now, let's dissect why this mindset is so rare and so powerful. Most men operate from scarcity. They believe that it signals that the man has options, that he isn't desperate, that he's judging her just as much as she's judging him. And that's intoxicating. When you become the standard, not the suitor, she's no longer evaluating you, you're evaluating her. But here's where most men fail. They mistake being the prize for being entitled. There's a critical difference. Being the prize doesn't mean you're arrogant or unapproachable. It means you've built a life so meaningful that a woman isn't your goal. She's your complement. It means you're not looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone who's worthy of joining you. That's the distinction. A prize isn't something that's handed out freely. It's something that's earned. And if you want to be that, you have to put in the work. Not for her, but for yourself. So how do you cultivate this? First, you define your non-negotiables. What will you tolerate? What won't you tolerate? If you don't set boundaries, you'll attract people who have no respect for them. Second, you develop unshakable self-respect. That means walking away the second someone treats you as less than you are. No explanations, no second chances, just action. Because when you tolerate disrespect, you invite more of it. But when you remove yourself from situations that diminish you, you send a message to the world and to yourself that you are not to be trifled with. And third, this is the most important, you become someone worth chasing. That means excelling in your career. It means having a physique that reflects discipline. It means cultivating a mind that's sharp, curious, and relentless. It means having a presence that fills. Don't hold on tight. If they don't compromise, if they don't sacrifice their own standards, the woman will leave. And guess what? She usually does. Because when you act like you're replaceable, you become replaceable. But when you carry yourself with the quiet certainty that losing you would be her loss, not yours, she starts to see you differently. Not as someone she can take for granted, but as someone she has to earn. Someone she has to respect. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding human nature. People don't value what comes easily. They value what they've had to strive for, what they've had to measure themselves against. Think about it. Why do women often chase men who seem indifferent? It's not because they enjoy the challenge, though that's part of it. It's because indifference signals high value in the room when you walk in. You don't do this to impress women. You do this because anything less is beneath you. And when you operate at that level, women don't just want you, they fear losing you. Because they know men like you aren't common. They know that if they let you slip away, they might never find someone like you again. Now let's talk about the ultimate test. How do you react when she pulls away? The average man panics, he double texts, he compromises, he begs. The man who knows his worth, he does nothing. He stays the course. Because he understands that if she's willing to walk away, she was never his to begin with. And that's the real power move. Not chasing, not negotiating, but maintaining your frame so completely that her only options are to step up or step out. This is how you flip the script. This is how you go from being the one who fears abandonment to the one who's irreplaceable. Because when a woman realizes that you're not just another option, that you're the standard, she'll either rise to meet you or she'll disqualify herself. Either way, you win. So ask yourself today, are you acting like the prize or are you settling for scraps? Are you demanding the best or are you accepting less than you deserve? The choice is yours, but remember this, the world doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you demand. Let's confront a brutal reality. Loyalty isn't given out of obligation, it's inspired by value. Most men misunderstand this. They think if they're nice enough, if they sacrifice enough, if they prove their devotion relentlessly, a woman will have no choice but to stay. But that's not how human psychology works. People don't remain loyal because you want them to. They remain loyal because they'd be fools to walk away from what you represent. So, how do you cultivate that kind of value? It starts with recognizing a fundamental truth. Women don't leave men. They leave the versions of those men who stopped growing. Think about it. When a relationship fades, it's rarely because of some sudden betrayal. It's usually the slow, quiet erosion of respect. The man who once had ambition becomes complacent. The man who was once disciplined becomes lazy. The man who was once a challenge becomes predictable. And predictability is the death of attraction. This isn't about blame. It's about accountability. If you want unwavering loyalty, you must first become someone worth being loyal to. That doesn't mean being perfect. It means being unignorable. It means having a presence so compelling that leaving you feels like abandoning a winning team mid-game. And that kind of presence isn't built overnight. It's forged through continuous self-improvement, through an unwillingness to stagnate, through a relentless commitment to being better today than you were yesterday. Now let's talk about leverage, not in a manipulative sense, but in the psychological reality that people stay where they feel they have the most to lose. If your relationship is built solely on emotional dependency, if the only thing keeping her there is your need for her, then the foundation is fragile. But if she looks at you and sees a man who is constantly evolving, a man whose absence would leave a void nothing else could fill, then walking away ceases to be an option. This is why mission is everything. A man without a purpose is a man without power. When you're fully committed to something greater than yourself, whether it's your career, your craft, or your vision, you radiate a different energy. You're no longer just a boyfriend or a partner. You become a force. And forces aren't easily discarded. But here's the critical distinction. This isn't about convincing her to stay. It's about making the idea of leaving inconceivable. When you're truly operating at your highest level, the question isn't, why would she stay? It's, why would she ever leave? That shift in framing changes everything, because now instead of you fearing her departure, she fears the consequences of losing you. Not because you've threatened her, but because you've made yourself indispensable. So how do you put this into practice? First, you master the art of non-reactivity. When she tests you, and she will, when she withdraws to see if you'll chase, you don't flinch. You stay rooted in your purpose. You demonstrate through action that your world doesn't crumble based on her moods. That's how trust is built. Not through words, but through unwavering consistency. Second, you maintain an edge of mystery. This doesn't mean playing mind games. It means understanding that familiarity, over time, can breed indifference. So you keep growing. You stay dynamic. You remain a man who can't be fully figured out. Not because you're hiding things, but because you're always expanding. Third, and most importantly, you cultivate real options. This isn't about sleeping around or keeping backups. It's about the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're not trapped. Wencheng senses that you're choosing her every day, not because you have to, but because you want to. That's when loyalty deepens. The bottom line, loyalty isn't something you ask for, it's something you command. Not through fear, not through guilt, but through being so undeniably valuable that leaving you would be a step down, not a step forward. So ask yourself today, are you building the kind of life that makes loyalty the obvious choice? Or are you just hoping she'll stick around out of pity or habit? The difference between those two paths is the difference between being left and being irreplaceable.